Hey, what's going on, everybody? Robert Marzullo here, and I had a request to do a video on shading techniques. So I figured I'll do something like that. And let's see, what kind of object can we do here? Let's try. Let's just try a leg. See if that works out. So the key focus here is going to be shadowing and shading. I just figured we need some kind of object, so I'll draw on the musculature of a leg here real fast. Something like this. And down here would be the calf. So you see here's the kneecap, a little pocket of flesh over top of the knee. The leg muscles, which to be honest, I have no clues what the names are. Get rid of the construction lines. Okay, so there's a quick leg, kind of on an angled downward shot. Okay, so now, because like I said, this is just on shading. Somebody asked, and I can't reference the person right now, but I try to get to any of these videos, comments, and requests when I can. So, uh, what I like to do, and you've probably seen me do this in some of my sketches, is I draw my light source like this. And another technique is that, say this is the light source. There's our little, here, make it even easier. I'll draw a little light bulb. There's my light bulb. As horrible as that is. Pink. Light bulb. I got an idea. Alright, so there's the light bulb. Okay, so what you can do is draw perspective lines. Let me pick a different color, or actually I'll just draw them on a different layer and a different color. Red. Oops. Okay, so now picturing that the light source is the light bulb there, and with the perspective lines, just kind of draw like you would a 1 point perspective. Now what that does for you is helps give you a visual. You know that this is a rounded cylindrical object minus the bumps of mass there. So what I like to do is first designate the overall light source of the entire object. Okay, something like that. And then get into each mass and do another separate uh, effect of it. And the reason why I do that, it makes me look at it in two different ways. I don't get in the habit of tracing every little bump into the leg, for instance, since that's what we're looking at. I don't get in the habit of doing that to every little piece, which can get habit forming, and, well, like I said, I don't get in the habit of it. It can be habit forming, obviously. Um, and then also, it looks very fake when you do that. And if you start looking at I mean, don't get me wrong, light does affect each one, especially when they're very defined masses, but you have to remember that it is one overall mass also. So just try to keep that in mind, that both together, I think, and this is my opinion, do your own research and see what works for you, but I feel that looking at it in that way gives you a little bit more realistic lighting effect. Okay, so now we'll take this red layer, we'll convert that to more of a blue line. We'll go back to our drawing layer, which I believe is right here, yeah. And then now we'll sketch out the rest of the line work here on our shadows. Now keep in mind, I illustrate more for comic books, so my technique here is going to look a little bit more somewhat animated for the style of comic drawing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how I do this kind of stylized effect of my shading, and I'm going to show you how I'd perceive the shading and do some line work. So that's only going to probably apply to some people. Some people are going to go, well, that's not how shading looks. Shading doesn't go around and ripple around these muscles like that. Maybe not, but what I'm doing is more of a stylized interpretation of that. So for you that like animation, that like comic stuff, this might appeal. For you that just want to sit back and draw mom pa kettle and a rocking chair or whatever, then yeah, then it's probably not gonna work for you, or seem that cool or dynamic or whatever. So just a heads up on that. So okay, so the other thing that I do is I go around the shape and I add variations of thick to thin lines. Okay, so like here where the light source is greatest, a little bit thinner. As it starts to bend around the muscle mass, a thicker line. And you can almost just do that around each portion of each mass. One thing that I think looks a little bit more effective is to always do it on the side. The thicker line should always be on the side that's facing away from the light. Simple as that. I mean, you can dink with it and do a few different other variations of that, but that's the one that conveys uh, dynamic shadowing better or more efficiently. So, alright, so there's that. We'll take away the blue line now. Let's see what we got. Enough to work from. And if I feel that there's going to be a secondary light source, and if this piece is going to be colored and needs to show that, then I'll come back through and I'll add like a little bit of highlight uh, areas like this on the bulkier areas of the object, or the leg in this case. Something like that. And actually, that's kind of what this line was too. So that when I shade this in, like so, just take a minute here. This is one of those videos where you can kind of be doing something else, maybe eating some Doritos or having some popcorn or whatever. But, somewhat paying attention, I hope. Hope I'm not wasting my time here. You in the back, pay attention, look forward. Just kidding. My attempt at humor, folks. There you go. So yeah, you just kind of fill this in. Certain areas you're going to leave a little opening of light. And actually, I should probably leave that on the very edge. A more dramatic highlight. There's a name for it, like I call it a trim light. God, what is it? Well, if any of you know, just chime in and let me know in the comments. But it's the secondary light at times can just kind of trim around the object, and that's kind of what this area is right here. But it just kind of glances around it. You might get like that. It might come into the other shape there, down around here, and it looks kind of neat. It definitely looks cool when you color it in. God, and the name is escaping me, but there's a specific name for that, not just a secondary light source. But we'll kind of fill all this in. Here's our main shadows to work with. Okay, and then I'll go for some, like line work and cross hatching. So, and keep in mind, I've explained this before in other videos, but some people don't get this, or choose not to get it. I don't know, but they keep asking me like, well, how do you get your lines like that? What software are you using? Blah blah blah. It's not the software. It's not the brush. Not the pen. Yes, there's ones that make it a little bit easier. All I'm using here is a thick to thin line. Oh, see, I messed up right there a little bit. And I'm just feathering the line, and all feathering means is you're pulling it multiple times to make it appear thick to thin. You can do that with a rapidograph. You can do that with a ballpoint pen. Sometimes I use a ballpoint pen for some really neat effects, so you don't have to feel, I guess I'm saying you don't want to feel like it's just a tool, like that if you don't learn how to use a crow quill, you're never going to get lines that are as cool as such and such guy. They're just, they're getting those lines because they've used stuff like that over and over again for years, and they've mastered it. I've seen guys do some really cool stuff with just regular pens at shows, conventions and things like that. I feel that I can do a decent enough job with just regular, stuff when I don't have access to it. So don't limit yourself in the way that you're constantly thinking it's a tool. Because I've seen so many people do that. Well, I can't do what he does because I don't have that tool, and like I'm drawing this on a Cintiq, and I've had people say, Man, that's so cool. You're so lucky to have a Cintiq. Well, yeah, I mean, I worked up to that. I saved my pennies. I did it like anybody else, and you know, the tool is great. Don't get me wrong. It's great to be able to use one of these, but uh, I could do 99% of what I'm doing here with the Intuos that got me up to this tool. And same thing with, inking with a pen and then, going to a brush where brushes are very effective. You can do a lot of cool lines with brushes. Um, so, just don't trick yourself into thinking it's a tool. It's the artist. And if you want to see better lines out of yourself, then you just practice different techniques. In fact, I'll show you a couple different shading effects with this even. You know, uh, like for instance, that's obviously cross hatching there. Sometimes I'll take another set of lines a little bit thinner and go away from the object like that. And there's my darkest point of this muscle mass. And then maybe I bring one line through here just to, just to kind of texture this stuff. I'm not, you know, per se trying to go, well, I want this to be darker here and lighter there. That's part of it, yes. The other part is just kind of giving it a cool texture. I don't want it to look boring. I want it to look very stylized. So after I do some shading through here, thick to thin, then maybe I'll go back and on each one of these lines, maybe I'll just do a little dot right there. That's rendering, that's texturing. That's not, you know, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I don't think that that's makes you look at that part of the drawing and go, "Oh yeah, that's the way that was supposed to be shaded." No, it's not that. It's that you textured it and made it look cool to the eye. Um, it's not that it was correct, I guess, is all I'm getting at. And then here for the second source of light, maybe some parallel lines like this. Again, feathered out, going with the shape of the muscle there. And then now what that does to me is if I do that here, 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 I'm showing the color artist, I'm showing the viewer, that's a different light source. That's a different light bulb over here that's casting that light. So that's all I'm getting at. That things like that make you read it that way. Now, if I would have shaded this just like what I did on these other top areas of the muscles over here, then you wouldn't have really got that feel from it, and it wouldn't have provided another texture to give it a more interesting look where this does. At least I think it does. And actually, my lines are coming out kind of horrible today. Some days I do better with my line work, but I think it's actually this pen tip. It's the pen, not the artist. Uh-oh, I just contradicted myself. No, it's me. It's the artist. So, here for that secondary light source all the way through, I'm just going to do these lines all going parallel to each other this way. I'm not going to do any cross hatching on these lines. Maybe I'll just bring it back the other way and thicken them on both ends. That looks cool sometimes. So like right here, I just come back in and thicken them from the other side. Okay, and that's my other, when it's colored, that would be another color, and that would make that pop a little bit more. Now on this one, since that very edge trim, I'll just do kind of these little lines coming this way. I'm purposely giving them some space in between and purposely rounding them what I would perceive as pointing towards the light. And another good one to do is to bring these little textured lines here off the edge where it's more shadowed. And I don't know, something about that always gives that line a little bit more weight and a better feel. I like doing that too. And again, this is all just dinking around and playing with it and trying different things. Like here on the kneecap, I'll go ahead and do these thick to thin lines here. And then maybe one pull down the side of it like that. And these ones I always do kind of darker, like I'm trying to put a darker shadow below the knee, like that. Okay. The one you see a lot is this little job where you just kind of, do those little points right there. And just, mix it up, play with it, maybe a thick to thin one here, a few lines over here. Another one I've been doing a lot too in some of my drawings here is, okay, now I've got it predominantly shaded the way I want. I can keep adding to it and tinking with it. But just to give it a little bit more depth, like right here, I kind of do like this, and then I'll put these little lines right here. And to me, that just kind of says, okay, there's where the highlight is the strongest on this object. At least that's what it looks like to me when I do that. And that's just something I recently started doing a little bit more of. I'm like, I think kind of looks cool. It's another layer of texture. Whether or not I'm correct, I don't know. I'm just trying to share with you guys, and things that I think about while I'm doing this stuff. And like, for instance, right here, nah, you know what, actually, sorry, that's going to be that same secondary light source right there. I'm going to do those straight lines there. But what I was going to get at is that I would probably do a different texturing right there altogether, but in that case, it made me remember that we do have a secondary light source over here to worry about, so I was just going to add it to that. So at any rate, that's kind of how I do it. I just, try different lines and different angles and different thicknesses, varying thicknesses. In some areas I crosshatch, like this, and some I don't. So just see what works for you and what sticks. And just remember what I said in the beginning about drawing an overall shadowed area, thinking of the entire shape as one big shape, and then going back and grabbing your individual pieces. And you should be able to get a little bit more realistic feel with that, just because, the only reason I decided to mention that is because I've seen a lot of people, myself included when I first started doing this, go through and just really trace every little piece of their design, and that's where a shadow went. And it looks very amateur. I'm not saying that my stuff's the greatest and the most professional at this point, but just trying to share what I've learned. So, all right, hopefully that's helped you. Be sure to leave something in the comments so I know what to work on next. And I upload about once a week, so be sure to check back and see the new stuff that I bring to you. And hopefully you like it and you'll share it and subscribe so I can keep bringing this stuff to you. And if you'd like to support, please check out the Blackstone Eternal comic book. You can get it on Indie Planet. And I'm going to keep bringing those books out. Book 1 is out. I'm working on book 2 and more to come. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and keep drawing and have a great time with it. Take care.